I have been getting a ton of DMs and emails about a reel that I put up on Instagram, and this particular video was called 5 Signs That You Might Be a People Pleaser. And it was so fascinating how many people responded to say that, yep, this is me, OMG, I can't believe it, and all kind of manners of reactions. So I thought, okay, let's talk about this. I want to talk about this a little bit deeper and address this, because I also got a lot of people who said, well, this is from the deen, people pleasing is from the deen. And isn't that what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prescribed for us? And what's wrong with it? And so in order to answer those questions and to also have a discussion about it, we're doing this room. First of all, I want to talk about people pleasing and to define people pleasing. So people pleasing, the technical term for people pleasing is actually called fawning, Fawning, fawning. So to fawn is actually a trauma response. It's a trauma response. It's one of the 4 trauma responses, and the other 3 being flight, fight, or freeze. Most people who teach about trauma responses miss out fawning. I don't know why, but for some reason they choose to miss out fawning. And it is a trauma response where we abandon ourselves, or you abandon yourself to get the approval of others. Those of us who fawn, those of us who people please, it is a way to diffuse conflict, to avoid conflict, and to also establish a feeling, a sense of safety within us. Right? So when someone fawns, they typically merge with the wishes and the needs and the demands of other people, which leads to them unconsciously abandoning themselves, abandoning their needs, abandoning their rights, and abandoning their preferences, and also their boundaries. So those of you who may have seen the post on people pleasing, it's way deeper than what I put up on Instagram and TikTok. As you can imagine, it was not possible to really go into depth as I am able to today. But I want you to sit with that and to check in with yourself honestly. When you people please, what is the purpose of you really doing so? When you people please, what is it that you are hoping to get from that? Now, I will reiterate the 5 signs of a people pleaser that I had mentioned in the video in case you had missed it. So the first one I mentioned was finding it hard to say no. So being a yes woman to everything and anything everyone wants, even to your own detriment. Even when you are tired, you will say yes. Even when you are sick, you will say yes, because you've decided that saying no means that you're a bad person. Saying no means that you are weak. Saying no means that you aren't a good mother, wife, daughter, sister, friend, colleague, and the list goes on. That's the first sign I mentioned, finding it hard to say no. The second that I mentioned was not speaking your truth. Not speaking your truth, meaning that when there's something that you disagree with, you will keep quiet about it so that you don't rock the boat. You will swallow your own truth and agree with what the other person is saying in order to remain in safe waters. You will avoid giving your own opinions that might be contrary to someone else's in order to avoid any kind of conflict. That is what happens when we swallow our truth, when you don't speak your truth. Number 3 that I mentioned was apologizing for things that are not your fault. Someone has done you wrong, right? And you now are apologizing for what they did. Again, can you see that fawn trauma response is there to avoid conflict? So you aren't even in the wrong. You are the quote unquote victim of someone else's bad behavior, and you apologize for something that you didn't even do. The 4th was overcompensating for people to love you and for people to like you. So you will overcompensate. You will go above and beyond in order for people to be pleased with you. So, someone is coming over for dinner, for lunch, for whatever, and you are tired, but you will let that person come anyway. 1, and you will clean your house like you're preparing for a grand entrance from someone super, super important. That's overcompensating because you don't want that person to think of you in a certain way. That is fawning. Number 5, pushing your needs aside. Again, in that example that I said, your need for rest, your need to recharge, you're pushing that aside because you're going to have someone come over. Pushing your needs aside is when sometimes you don't even put yourself on your list, let alone at the top of your list. So those were the 5 signs of people pleasing that I had mentioned in that video. And there were some that I missed out because, for the sake of trying to fit into the video time frame, there were some that I missed out. One being avoiding conflict at all costs. So doing everything in your power to avoid conflict with anyone. No disagreeing, no not showing up. You will do everything in your power to ensure that someone else isn't upset with you, someone else isn't displeased with you, someone else doesn't feel a certain way about you. You will allow others to make decisions for you, or you will do what others want in order to get their approval. So you will go along with someone else's plans, even if you don't like that plan, even if that plan goes against your own beliefs, your own values. You'll keep your mouth shut and you will go along with someone else's plan. That's fawning. Another thing is telling people what they want to hear, hyping someone up who doesn't deserve to be hyped. You will do everything again just to make sure that person is pleased with you. As you can see from the examples I have given, fawning, people pleasing, ultimately results in the death of your individual self. That right there hits different and it hurts when you put it like that. Because none of us who people please really want the death of our individual self. But I want you to, and I invite you to just sit with yourself and just check in with how connected you are within yourself as someone who fawns. How connected are you truly with yourself? How centered and grounded are you within yourself? How much are you truly yourself? Or you may find that as someone who people pleases, someone who fawns, you don't even know who you are. You feel a disconnection with yourself and your needs and your wants and your desires. You feel a disconnection from your own body and your own thoughts. This is what happens when we compulsively mirror what's expected of us, what others want from us or want for us. You detach from your own sense of self, from your identity, from your needs, from your thoughts, from your desires, from even your own body. That's what happens when we fawn. And it's sad because I see it so much amongst women and girls. And it's, again, that, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's a trauma response in order to avoid conflict and in order to avoid a sense of loss loss of connection and love. Ultimately, when someone fawns, you want to feel connected, you want love, you want to feel close to someone. And in some circles, some have actually said that people pleasing is a form of manipulation. I don't particularly like that term because it kind of assumes that someone's being manipulative on purpose and consciously. I get why they may say that, because someone who fawns is manipulating the way others see them and view them and think about them. I would err against using that particular phrasing because it doesn't feel nice, and it makes it sound like someone is doing it on purpose, where really it's an unconscious trauma response. And so, why do you people please? Why do you fawn? You want to feel connected, so you want that deep connection. You want that love. That you feel that if you say something, they're going to leave. If you say something, they're no longer going to love you. If you say something, they're going to now be displeased with you and see you as a bad person. And so it's easier then to do what? To keep your mouth shut and to go along with someone else's programming, right? That fear of rejection is real when it comes to fawning and people pleasing. That fear of how people will think of you, how people will treat you, that's real in that trauma response. And that feeling that you have of not feeling like you're good enough is also deeply, deeply embedded in that trauma response. Because if you felt like you were good enough, you wouldn't need to abandon yourself for the pleasure of others. If you felt like you were grounded inside yourself and within yourself, you wouldn't need to get that from outside of you. And as someone who has, by the grace and mercy of God, I have got to the other side of fawning, I know the struggle. I used to think it was an amazing trait to avoid conflict. I actually used to say, I don't get angry. It wasn't true though. I used to just bottle my anger. I used to just repress because I feared what would be said if I spoke my truth. I feared the conflict that would happen. So I know, I intimately know fawning. And I know that it came from childhood, just as all trauma responses do. Trauma responses come from childhood, and they come usually in our environment with our primary caregivers. Not always, but usually in our environment with our primary caregivers. That might be parents, that might be other relatives, but it usually comes from there. And I know that my fawning, my people-pleasing behavior, that came from my childhood. And so as you're sitting with the truths of people-pleasing and fawning, as you're coming to understand and realize where it's come from, how you've been doing it, and why you've been doing it, the one way that I say when you think about how to heal it, because I know that's the question now. Okay, LaYinka, I know the problem. I know what the issue is. So how do I fix this? Because it's nice to know the problem. What's the solution? And the solution is to get in touch with yourself. Get in touch with your needs and feeling safe in your own body. That part is the part we miss out on. We talk about feeling to move towards our needs and understanding our needs and desires and honoring them, etc. But that feeling safe in your body is crucial. Why? Because when you feel unsafe in your body, you will do anything to feel safe. And usually that will be something external. So you will go outside of yourself to feel a sense of safety. And where the people pleasing And fawning has been a trauma response unconsciously for years on end. It's what you and your body know. Your body knows it. So when you see that frown on someone's face, your body goes into a mode. It's flooded with the need to feel safe. It's flooded with a need of unsafety because that frown reminds you of a frown from way back when. You're not consciously doing this. It's all unconscious. But that frown reminds you of the frown of your mother or your father or someone who was important to you when you were a child. And so your body goes into that mode of wanting to feel safe again. And that will then activate that need to people please. So you feeling safe in your body will then dismantle that knee-jerk, unconscious need to please someone else in order to feel safe. Because what you are ultimately doing is you are giving someone else the keys to your feelings of safety. Imagine that. Giving someone else the keys to your feeling of safety, to your feelings of worthiness. When I work with my ladies in the Homecoming Collective, I ask questions like, what are you feeling right now? Where are you feeling it in your body? Because most of us haven't checked in. We don't check in with ourselves that way. We don't check in with how we are feeling. We don't check in with what we are feeling, where we are feeling it within our body. We are so disconnected from ourselves that we don't even know what is going on within us at any given time. And so checking in regularly when you are in a conversation with someone and you know that you would usually say yes, that moment is a moment to just check in with yourself. What am I feeling right now? What is really going on? What's really driving this? What's driving this yes? Is it my need for them to love me, to like me, for me to be connected to them? Or is it because it's something that I really want to do? Something that is actually meaningful? Is this in alignment with me? Or is it out of alignment for me? So getting in touch with your own needs and feeling safe in your body, as well as separating yourself, your sense of self, from the emotions of other people. Now, why is that particular part key? Because as someone who fawns, as someone who people pleases, what someone thinks, how someone reacts, how someone feels, you've decided that it's your responsibility. And that their response, their feelings, their emotions are a reflection of you. Right? But if and when you know that someone's response and someone's emotions and someone's feelings are theirs entirely and their responsibility, then you no longer need to make yourself responsible for them. You no longer need to fawn. You no longer need to mold yourself or shrink yourself because of someone else's emotions and because of someone else's feelings. I can tell you it's the most empowering thing to be able to say no, to be able to say, I'm not available to do that. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. I'm good. It's the most empowering thing you could do because whenever we say no, we are also saying yes. Just like I teach my ladies, whenever you're saying yes, you are also saying no. So whenever you say yes to someone's needs, you are also saying no to yours. Now, I do want to address some of the comments that I've received, such as, well, isn't people pleasing from our faith? Isn't this something that we should be aspiring to do? Isn't this something that's commendable? Isn't this something that's good? Doing good is commendable and rewardable. 100%, hands down, it is. Doing good is good. doing good at the expense of your emotional, mental, physical, spiritual well-being, that isn't commendable. Because preservation of self is a core dictate in the religion of Islam. Preservation of self. Hence, why when you are dying and there is no food, you are permitted to eat pork that suffices you to stay alive. Something that's clearly haram and forbidden is permissible in order for you to stay alive. Preservation of self is part of our faith. Fawning, let me remind you that fawning is a trauma response. Doing good is not a trauma response necessarily. Doing good can be something that you just want to do for the love that you have for the person, from the depths of your heart, right? From the goodness in your heart. Doing good and helping someone out could be just something that is natural to you. And you're a person who is naturally giving and things like that. We have to be checking in with ourselves. Am I naturally giving and heart-centered in that way? Or is this a trauma response that is happening? Is this just my way of knowing how to operate in the world in order for other people to love me, to like me, and for me to feel like I belong? You have to get honest about that. For those of you who aren't aware of who I am a self-transformation expert, alhamdulillah, and I am trained in several modalities of change so that I can support women to come home to themselves. Homecoming Collective is where we do amazing work to be able to overcome things such as people pleasing, overcome things such as self-abandonment. And it's where I support women to be able to use their own voice, express their needs, and to also be true to themselves. You can visit the link layinkasani.com/homecoming if you would like to join the collective. And I'd absolutely love to support you to really help you to overcome people pleasing, to get in touch with your own needs, and to feel safe in your body.